Hello. You know, as a director who is always involved in the casting process, I'm sitting in on the casting calls, or I'm conducting them, or I'm definitely working really closely with the casting director. I thought it would be helpful for me to share some do's and don'ts for actors about submitting video auditions or auditioning in general. One reason I'm doing it is out of frustration. And the other is you guys are missing jobs. You're missing auditioning opportunities just by simply making a few mistakes that you should not be making. One of the first ones that comes to mind is when I post an audition on places like Backstage. I'm very detailed with my instructions and what I expect you to do to submit for the project. And I wouldn't hesitate to say that 90% of all actors do not follow instructions. I don't know if you guys are just simply automatically submitting when a new project comes open without actually reading the details. Sometimes I think that maybe they're so hungry they'll take any possibility and then deal with the actual consequences of the audition later on. But that's not the way to do it. One of the things I get a lot is I will request for someone to audition for the part because I've already seen their profile, or maybe I've seen their show reel, and I'll say, hey, please audition for this part, you might be good for it. But then I'll get a question back from the actor like, well, where's the film going to be seen? What kind of film festivals are you going to submit to? Which ones? How long is the film going to be? All of those things are irrelevant to you wanting that job. And in fact, most of them can't even be answered at that point. I can't tell you that I'm going to submit to a certain film festival until I see the performance. Because, blindly submitting to film festivals is a waste of money. Any director or producer that knows what they're doing should be carefully placing that film in the right film festival. Otherwise, you really are just wasting your time and effort. So I can't give you that answer up front. How long is the film? We haven't made the film, so I can't tell you that. I can tell you whether it's a feature or short, but that's already in the description of the role. I've been asked, where will it be seen? How in the world would I know that? There's no way for me to guess that. What you are signaling to a director or a casting director at that point is that those details are more important than you getting the job. And they shouldn't be. That's a big mistake. The number one complaint I have about casting calls is that the actors do not read the description. For example, I always hire based on video submissions for my project. I don't personally care about show reels or even past performances. I really don't. All that does is show whether or not you can act. Okay, it's kind of helpful, but just because you acted in another part doesn't mean you can play my role or my part. So I don't hire based on your show reels or resumes. I always ask for a video audition using the script that's attached to the project. So what I'll get instead will be actors submitting to that role for an audition with nothing but their headshots, maybe a resume, or telling me something about them. That's not what I asked for. I asked for a video audition. I happen to be one of the few that might chase you down even though you didn't do what I asked you to do just because I liked you that much. But the problem is, you as an actor are missing out on opportunities. Many directors and casting directors won't even go any further with you once they see an email that hasn't followed instructions. So you've wasted your time and you've not really tried to earn that role. You haven't done anything, and you haven't done what we've asked you to do. So you're setting yourself up for a negative presentation right from the very beginning. So please rethink doing that. Read the description of the role, of the project all the way through before you submit. Don't blindly submit. Know what you're doing before you do it. Another thing you're telling the director or the casting director or producer is that your time is more valuable than theirs. Because if I have to go through your email and then turn around and contact you again and tell you what it is you're supposed to do, I've just done double work. I've gone out of my way to tell you something that you should have already known. Yes, I get it that you're busy and there's so many roles out there that you're just applying, just trying to catch any crumb thrown your way. But you're losing out on potential real possibilities. Another issue I have found is that most of my projects I will post as a non-union job, and I will have actors and actresses apply for that role, and then I'm interested in them, and then once we get into talking, they admit that they have an agent or that they are really union, and you know, they just wanted to see if they could possibly get this role. Why would you do that? That tells me that, again, that you're wasting my time. I said non-union for a reason. And the last thing that I want to do is have to turn around and contact your agent or deal with your union, because I didn't ask for that. So please be aware that it's just not cool to do these things. It's not professional. But my fear is there's so many opportunities that an actor or an actress is missing, all because they can't do the right things to get their foot in the door first. Another frustration that I have discovered with actors is after you've given them the part, they want to negotiate something about that role. The time to do that is before you get the part. It's not when you show up that day on set or a week before you asked for something that was not there originally. You're causing that director or that producer or that casting director to not be able to trust you and to not feel comfortable in the working environment as to what you're really going to deliver. Without fail, female actresses, when told they might need to go braless in that particular scene, or wear a certain garment or whatever, they inevitably try to get around that somehow in some way. Now, I usually tell them up front what the deal is. That's either good or bad. Either that is perceived as you're shady and why are you trying to do something like this, before you get to set or whatever. I don't see it that way. I think it's me being upfront and honest with you about what I'm going to expect. But for you to think it's no big deal, I'll agree to these things, or say, yeah, okay, it's no problem, and then when I actually show up, I've got pasties on, or I've decided that this doesn't work for me, that's not the time to do it, because now you're giving me something that I didn't ask for. Or put it another way, I'm getting something that I didn't want. Not cool. I probably won't work with you again after that. Most actors know that if they do a film of any kind, short, feature, whatever, there might be some ADR that is required for you to cut audio in a booth. It's just part of the business. And for you not to expect that, to me, is a little weird, especially if you've been in the business at all. So trying to renegotiate for the fact that you may have to do some audio dubbing is, you probably are not going to get hired again, because that goes with the territory. It's like having to reshoot something. It's part of the deal. 99.9% of the actors and actresses out there haven't reached the Sandra Bullock level, yet they want to negotiate and talk as if they have. That's extremely frustrating. If you haven't earned the right to be at that level, you shouldn't be demanding things at that level. I'm not saying you shouldn't stick up for yourself and speak your feelings and have guidelines and even boundaries. But again, that's something that should be done in the hiring process, in the casting process. That should not be done afterwards. If an issue arises, I would hope that there would be some consideration there as to how much you've got to compromise to make this happen. Most of us on an independent level or small budget project, we have a limited amount of funds, and to have to go and redo something just because we have an issue with an actor or an actress is devastating and could cost us the production altogether. I can guarantee you that's your fastest way to never get hired again. And believe it or not, we all do talk to each other. I will have people contact me about your role in my film, and I'm not going to pull any punches. I owe it to them to tell them what my true experience with you was. I'd love to hear some feedback from you. I'd love to hear your comments. I'd love to hear what kind of frustrations you've had with directors, producers, casting directors. But I hope you will use this opportunity to educate yourself as to what it's like on the other side of the camera, and actually getting you to the point of being able to get hired so that you can make a living doing what you love to do. Please consider these points I've made as do's and don'ts to actually getting a part in a film.